indie robot. And welcome to SynthJohn's Retro Ramble. In this episode, we are going to look at one of Italy's most prolific actors, Giovanni Lombardo Radice, Italy's whipping boy.
Barber Boucher. Barber Boucher. Barber Boucher. Barber Boucher.
You should have killed Anya Peroni for real.
Didn't get
One
well
of
with
the
it.
worst whores in cinema history. A potato with teeth and ass.
Barber Boucher.
Oh fuck, wrong footage. He is known for his horrific and extravagant deaths on screen.
Giovanni Lombardo Radice entered this world on the 23rd of September 1954 in Rome, Italy, as the youngest son of Lucio Lombardo Radice and Adele Maria Gemelo. His father was a brilliant mathematician. In Giovanni's autobiography, A Zombie's Life, he talks fondly of his parents and the internal struggles they had before their marriage. From a direct quote from his book, Giovanni said, "My parents' marriage, starting just after the war in Italy began, had been a misalliance with the aristocratic Morgan and the hyper-Catholic Gemelo, doing what was in their power to prevent their brilliant and beautiful daughter from marrying a mathematic professor to be 10 years her senior, and God forbid, a communist. But love, born in the heroic days of the fight against Mussolini and the Nazis, in which they both had been active, my father, being in jail twice, had been stronger than the family crusade." Even as a young child, Giovanni was attracted to the theatrics of the stage. He would get lost in a world of puppet theatre, marionettes, and little toy soldiers. He would even train in ballet. However, due to a back injury he sustained, his career in ballet was broken. However, this didn't stop young Giovanni to pursue a career in stage acting, which he passionately adored. For Giovanni to recite Shakespeare was like marmalade to toast. After many years acting in stage plays and so forth, Giovanni would get the fantastic opportunity to break through into the Italian film industry. This would take place during the fall of 1979.
I did an audition, and it was a great shock to me. I was contacted that I had found an agent just a few weeks before that, she had found me. As a matter of fact, I had casually met her, and she said, "Ah, would you be interested in being in movies?" I was desperate about money, so I said, "Oh, yes." And she was Ruggero Deodato's mother-in-law at that time, but I didn't know it.
His breakthrough film was House on the Edge of the Park. Directed by Ruggero Deodato, director of the infamous pioneering found footage film Cannibal Holocaust, sees two blue-collar car mechanics, Alex, played by David Hess, and Ricky, played by Giovanni Lombardo Radice, get enticed to go to a party run by a bunch of snot-nosed suburban rich kids, who initially take advantage of their guests until the tables get turned. Harassment, vagina violation, and mutilation is all done with the usual David Hess debauchery. Ricky is a mentally vulnerable adult who not only has the white-collar rich kids taking advantage of him, but his so-called friend Alex, who attempts to manipulate him into things he doesn't want to do, which creates an internal conflict between Alex and Ricky, which leads to the shocking climax. After the controversy of his last film, Cannibal Holocaust, House on the Edge of the Park would also have the same fate, as it would gain a spot on the Video Nasties list. The film would remain banned for many years, with only cut versions of the film released throughout the 2000s and 2010s, until he got an uncut release in 2022. Giovanni treasured the memories of working with David Hess and often spoke fondly of him in interviews.
David was fantastic. Fantastic. I was very lucky to have him as my first partner, because he was really nice, sweet, helpful, giving me tips, supporting me. We had a great relationship, human relationship, and this shows in the movie, I think, the magic in between us. So he was like Ruggero, he was full of life, so that's why they were colluding at times, because Ruggero had a very short time, because we did the whole movie in 3 weeks. So it was running, and David was always saying, "Oh, Ruggero, I have this fantastic idea, why don't we do this? Why don't we change that?" And Ruggero was busy, "David, don't break my balls." I mean. And so, but they loved each other. And so it was a fantastic experience working with David. And then we met, we used to write to each other, to chat. Then we met at a convention in Glasgow with him, Katrina McCall, and me. We had a fantastic time. We had the most wonderful Q&A with the audience, because they kept asking the same question that was asked to us for decades, if there was homosexual hint in between Ricky and Alex. And so I said, yes, people, we can confess it now, because times have changed. We have been lovers ever since. And we are planning to get married in Barcelona. And at that point, David said, "But who's going to be the bride?" I said, "You are going to be the bride." "No, you are going to be the bride." So it was fantastic. Then he sang, because he was a singer, a musician, a reputed musician. So it was very nice moment.
He wrote songs for Elvis,
Yeah,
didn't
he wrote Speedy Gonzales.
he? Yeah. Absolutely
Speedy
amazing.
Gonzales
Amazing.
was him.
His second feature film was the Italian cannibal gut muncher Cannibal Apocalypse. Directed by Antonio Margaretti, Cannibal Apocalypse sees American soldier Norman Hopper, played by John Saxon, attempt to rescue his American compatriots during a bloody battle with the Viet Cong. He would find his compatriots only to be ravishingly bitten. Still traumatized by the experience years later, Hopper attempts to lead a normal life in Atlanta, Georgia, while unwillingly carrying a cannibalistic virus for an appetite for the alternative white meat. After a stint in a mental hospital, Charlie Bukowski, played by Radice, attempts to reconnect with Hopper, which initially falls on deaf ears. After causing complete anarchy in a cinema, Bukowski holds up in a flea market, surrounded by cops. Hopper reluctantly plays negotiator for the cops to get Bukowski out of harm's way. Soon, cannibalistic chaos ensues as Hopper succumbs to his personal demons and leads his cannibalistic gang, which leads to the spectacular sewer shootout. Cannibal Apocalypse is a remarkably refreshing take on the Italian cannibal genre, which showcases cannibalism as a rabid virus. Its unique style reminds me of a fusion of Starsky and Hutch and David Cronenberg's Rabid. Giovanni has many treasured memories of working on a cannibal apocalypse.
My character was very appealing, was very interesting. A Vietnam soldier back from Vietnam in a crazy in a mental hospital, and with this urge to bite people, and so no. The character was okay, and but I thought the script was very stupid. Later on, I changed my mind because I realized that there was something even prophetical about it, because it was just 1 or 2 years before the AIDS epidemic started. And then there was this whole idea that violence generates violence, because everything started with the Vietnam War. So it wasn't as stupid as I thought. Margheriti was the nicest man possible, a real gentleman. So working with him was a pleasure. He understood actors, he liked them. So it was a very pleasant shooting, and even watching it back now, I think it's a solid movie. I mean, John Saxon is very good in it, so I recommend it. All in all, I recommend it.
Yeah, Giovanni talking about AIDS. It reminds me of that song. Giovanni would end the very productive year of 1980 with the first entry into the gates of hell, City of the Living Dead. A seance is sinisterly disrupted as psychic Mary Woodhouse, played by Catcher McCall sees a terrifying vision of a priest committing suicide in a graveyard in the tiny little village of Dunwich, which opens one of the gates to hell. After seemingly dying from shock, the police and a journalist named Peter Bell, played by Christopher George, attempt to investigate how she died. It is then revealed that Mary Woodhouse was buried alive. After the journalist saves her, they team up to go to Dunwich to reclose the gates of hell before All Saints' Day. Giovanni plays Bob, the mindless misfit who roams through the fog vacantly, like a Morrissey fan waiting for a Smiths reunion, who wants nothing more than play with his sex dolls. Luscious Linda, horny Helena, or is it rancid Rachel, overdosed with the trademark Fulci fuckery? City of the Living Dead is a harrowing hallucinogenic experience. Giovanni often spoke fondly of a Lucio Fulci.
When I was cast in the movie, people kept telling me, oh, you will have a hard time, he has a bad temper, he screams a lot, he doesn't like actors, beware, and so on. So I was a bit, I was quite young, and it was my third movie, only my third movie. But I soon realized that with me, he was an angel. I mean, never shouted, never complained, never. I can say he liked me. I was the only one he was taking to dinner after shooting. To me, it was very pleasant. He was a very cultivated man. Liked to talk. He was very respectful of the fact that I was coming from the stage, and we were discussing other directors. He had been an assistant to famous Italian director Luchino Visconti, which was a favorite of mine. So we talked a lot about him and his movies and literature and different things. But it's true that he had a bad temper, because I witnessed many great scenes with shouting, throwing things, tantrums, but not all of them were real, because once he told me, look, you are a theater director and maybe one day you will want to direct a movie, so I'll give you a tip. And the tip is, with production people, you always have to make a big scene every 2 or 3 days, even out of nothing. This fork smells, which means nothing, but whatever, because otherwise, if you don't, they will get sloppy, they won't give you what you need. If you make a scene every 2 or 3 days, they will always be on the verge, on the edge, so you'll get what you want. So not all of his scenes were real, but some were. And another thing to be said about Fulci, I mean, he was a sad man. He was a sad man, frustrated, but also he was frustrated because he wasn't considered as highly as he would have liked to in Italy. He kept saying, oh, in France, they consider me a genius, a master, and here in Italy, blah, 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 blah. But also he was sad because he had terrible tragedies in his life. His wife was diagnosed with cancer. She committed suicide, and the diagnosis was wrong. She had no cancer. So there was a big tragedy in his life, and Camilla fell. His daughter fell from a horse, and had very great problems. I don't know if she was crippled or I don't know, but anyway, it was a very serious matter. So he wasn't a happy man. He wasn't a happy man.
1981 would unquestionably see the release of the most controversial film in Giovanni's filmography, and in many ways was the last hurrah for the Italian cannibal genre. The film in question was Cannibal Ferox. Anthropology student Gloria, along with her brother Rudy and best friend Pat, attempt the exploration of the Amazonian rainforest to disapprove the first world theory that cannibalism still exists. After stumbling into two Americans who claimed to be attacked by cannibals, Mike and Joe, they team up in a desperate hope of defending themselves against the natives. It is soon revealed by the injured Joe that Mike Logan, played by Radice, is not the man that he claims to be. Joe spills the beans, or spills his guts, that Mike not only ripped off the Italian mobsters in New York, but also killed the native guide in a coat-filled rage. It is not long before the natives go postal on these first world fuckers, who not only get captured and tortured, but they also play a game of too much taken off the top. Often marketed with the very smart tagline, banned in 31 countries, Cannibal Ferox was often criticised for its portrayal of the natives, its excessive gore and animal cruelty. And like House on the Edge of the Park and Cannibal Apocalypse, Cannibal Ferox would see it sat at the head of the table as a notorious video nasty. Giovanni has never shied away of showing his disdain for Cannibal Ferox.
Cannibal Ferox was a piece of shit.
It was a piece of shit. It was a sordid piece of shit.
I puke on it, if I may say.
And I write inside, I hate this piece of shit. Kill Lindsay. I don't know. I remember I was there in the Amazonas because first days I wasn't needed on set, so I was just in the hotel room just with the script saying, what the fuck am I gonna do with that?
And people keep telling me, oh, you were great in that. No, I wasn't great. I was terrible. I was pulling faces all the time, screaming. But poor me, I mean, there was nothing I could grab on because it was a villain, full stop. So no shades, no insights. I mean, Shakespeare wrote great roles for villains. Iago in Othello, you never really get to understand why he is so mean. But it's a great character because, I mean, one thing is to say, beware my lord of jealousy. He's a green-eyed monster that feeds upon the meat, that feeds upon the meat he kills. And another thing is to say, shut up, cunt.
They're really sick of me, and so they cut my skull and eat my brain, which was one of the most funny moments on set, because I was underneath that table in the middle of the jungle, and of course I was underneath, and there was a fake skull on top of the table, so they were cutting the fake skull. I was dying with all blood pouring down on my face, and then the natives had to eat the brain. The brain was a horrid mix of banana and stage blood. Stage blood is quite revolting, and so instead, because they weren't actor studio people, instead of being really thrilled and excited and tasting this wonderful human brain, they were just, making obvious that it was disgusting. So we had to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and at the end of the day I was covered in blood in the middle of the jungle. I mean, nasty experience, but the whole shooting was very hard. We quarreled on set because of the pig I was supposed to kill, and of course I refused, because reading the script I had figured out it was a special effect or something. So I said that I wasn't killing no pig, and he said Robert De Niro would have done that. I said Robert De Niro would have kicked you in the ass all the way back to Rome, and so I didn't kill the pig.
In Italian cinema during that time period, it was commonplace for an actor/actress and director to have a pseudonym to broaden the appeal of a film to a worldwide audience, mainly to an American audience. So Giovanni Lombardo Radice's pseudonym was John Morgan.
No, the thing is that at that time, many producers wanted the movies to look American. So they were asking everybody, including the crew, to have a stage name, which could sound American. So I was asked to, and I didn't like the idea of having a total meaningless name. So I translated, of course, Giovanni with John. Then in my family I was always called Johnny, so I was very familiar with it. So Giovanni became John. And I had two foreign grandmothers, one by the name of Morgan and the other one with the name of Harazim. And I decided to take Morgan because it was more stagey, reminded of Morgan the pirate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, so John Morgan it was. And at times I was John Morgan in the credits, at times I was with my real name. At times they did change from John Morgan to my real name when I got most famous with my stage work, or so. The Morgan family was very pissed about that. My great uncle, my grandmother's brother, scolded me awfully when he found out that I was using the sacred, because the Morgan were a very famous family and so on and so on. And so he scolded me when he found out I was using the sacred family name for those shitty movies. So I tried to avoid using John Morgan, and nowadays I don't use it anymore. But at times, if they call me in interviews, if they call me John Morgan or whatever, I can't avoid it.
Giovanni's first 4 films incited the wrath of the crazy conservative campaigners and the British censors during the video nasty scare. The BBFC horrifically trimmed these films worse than a Mr Bean bowl cut, and would eventually be outright banned for several years. This, by default, earns Giovanni the moniker King of the Video Nasties.
When they started outlawing certain films in the early 80s, I think when we were looking at this, you were in more films than any other actor in these banned films, with the exception, I think you were one in front of Cameron Mitchell. So I mean, if nothing else, isn't that quite a good, interesting accolade to have?
Maggot chomping, bombastic bosoms, penis amputations, crocodile cut and paste, cannibiferox.
You just made the list!
Cannibal Ferox was not the only time that Radice would enter the ludicrous lenses of Lenzi. Partnered with Marina Garoni, together they would write the jungle romantic adventure Daughter of the Jungle.
Abbiamo bisogno che tu scriva una sceneggiatura di Umberto Lenzi. Si intitola La figlia della giungla. Saresti interessato?
Mi stai prendendo in giro? Se mai dovessi incontrare di nuovo quello stronzo, lo picchierò così tanto nero e blu. Avrà bisogno di un'operazione ricostruttiva sul suo ferox. E mi chiameranno Furio Frenzy.
Giovanni, capisco i tuoi sentimenti verso.
Davvero? Lenzi si crede un regista alla John Ford. E ogni volta che piscia pensa che sia un evento cinematografico. Lenzi piscia su tutta la tavoletta del water e non ha la comune decenza di pulire la tavoletta del water. Inoltre, non sopporto l'Amazzonia, con solo acqua corrente nei Water Wednesday, e i piranha che si attaccano troppo al mio pene.
Giovanni, non avresti bisogno di andare in Amazzonia o incontrare Lenzi. Sarai pagato.
Quanto? Sì, ci sto.
Directed by Umberto Lenzi, Daughter of the Jungle involves two young American adventurers, Ringo and Butch, who attempt to explore the forest of the Dominican Republic, who are then soon captured by the tribe of the forest. After escaping an attack between the tribe of the forest and rival adventurers in search of rubies, they encounter Susan, a tribal girl who has lived in the jungle since she was a little girl, who survived a terrible plane crash. It is not long before Butch becomes romantically smitten with Susan as they clamour for the greener pastures of the USA. Radice and Lenzi would go on to record an audio commentary for the Grindhouse DVD release of Cannibal Ferox. Radice and Lenzi's commentaries were recorded separately, with very funny and conflicting opinions. This is the greatest movie ever. If I could kiss myself on the lips, I would. I hate this piece of shit. I wish someone would chop off Lenzi's head. For real. Not there will be much of there, I must say. God, Mike Logan, a coke-addicted, cock-removing coward. In the mid to late 1980s, Giovanni would help helm the directing talents of Michele Soavi. Initially, Michele was a bit part actor who appeared in City of the Living Dead, Absurd, and Demons. Although Michele enjoyed acting, his real passion was to enjoy the fruits and labour of his artistic vision behind the lens of a camera. His directing debut was Stage Fright, also known as Deliria, Aquarius, and Bloody Bird. An ensemble of stage performers are rehearsing their play, The Night Owl, which of course leads to disaster as serial killer Irvin Wallace escapes from the mental hospital, which sees the terrified troupe of thespians butchered with more gore than a cow carcass in a slaughterhouse, with a variety of weapons, all from the serial killer's weapons book. Radice plays Brett, the bitchy ballet dancer, who loves nothing more in tormenting his fellow thespians. This was a refreshing role for Radice, as it showed his comedic chops, as he was well known for being a comedic actor on stage. Radice even contributed to the script and remains one of his most beloved roles.
You ended up in Deliria, or as many of us know it as Stage Fright Aquarius, and obviously the reference there is dance, and how was that to go in and do that role? And
well, I was out of training by then, so for the dance I had a substitute. Anyway, it was fun. I wasn't dancing, but the character was. I also contributed to the script because Michele asked me to put some behind the wings stuff like bitching, gossiping things. So I added some lines. So it was surely a word I didn't know very well.
Radice would appear in other Soavi films, such as The Church and The Sect, and would remain close friends with him for many years beyond. During this time period, he would also appear in Ruggero Deodato's Phantom of Death and Lamberto Bava's Body Puzzle. After the unfortunate and sad state decline in the Italian film industry during the late 80s and early 90s, a new market opened up in the Italian television industry, which helped to re-establish Italian film directors in keeping and sustaining work for many decades beyond. So, during the 90s and the early 2000s, Giovanni worked extensively hard in theatre and TV movie productions that were mainly historical and religious set pieces. From a direct quote from his book, A Zombie Life, Giovanni said, "From 1990 to 1997, I staged 16 plays and translated from English all the ones I dealt personally with and many more for directors, one of them in French. Titles included 3 more different versions of bedroom farce for other groups or acting schools.
But obviously there's been lots of other roles throughout your career, and during the sort of 90s and into the early 2000s you were working quite a lot on sort of historical and religious films.
Yes.
Do you enjoy working on those type of films? Do you find them challenging?
Very much. I did many European productions, co-produced in between France, Germany, Italy, such and such. And yes, my favorite was probably The Life of St. Paul, where I got the role of King Herod, not the children's lawyer, his nephew, King Herod Agrippa, the one who persecuted Christians after Jesus Christ's death. And that was a very nice role, very good role.
Giovanni would have a brief brush with Hollywood and star in Martin Scorsese's Gangs of New York.
And I know you always say this. You're such a blink and you miss it role, but obviously Gangs of New York came to Cinecittà to shoot, and you're in there for you're mentioned more than you're seen, aren't you? What was it like working on that set?
Well, you know, what happened was that in the original script, those actors playing Uncle Tom's Cabin had lines, so you could see a few moments of the staging of Uncle Tom's Cabin. Then Scorsese's found out that the movie was already too long as a script, so he decided to cut a few things, and he cut those lines. So they were just presences. At that point, my agent didn't want me to do it, but the money was the same. It was very solid, good money. A week work, and then I was very intrigued by this reconstruction of 19th century New York they had done in Cinecittà Studios, and it was amazing. And I'd never seen such a thing in my life. They had built an entire town, streets, squares, gardens, an harbor with 2 real vessels, and theaters, whatever. You could get lost there. So it was fascinating, yes.
Then the hounds of hell howled their desperate ploy. Giovanni would restamp his horror passport by appearing in the remake of The Omen, House of Flesh Mannequins, and The Reverend. In recent years, Radice has appeared in independent British film director Darren Ward films such as Day of Violence, and in Beyond Fury as Ivan Lindzevich, which he promoted on his YouTube channel.
Hello, my friends. I'm Ivan Lendzevich, and I'm the worst gangster you've ever seen. And I talk with the most incredible East European accent you've ever heard, but don't tell me so, otherwise I'll cut off your tongue and feed my tiger with it.
Around the time period of Giovanni making Sudden Fury, he was in the early stages of writing his autobiography, A Zombie's Life, Italy's Whipping Boy talks life and career.
Definitely
and
a
as a matter of
film.
fact, Darren Ward is essential in this book because he's a great friend. And, you know, I think I write English quite well, but he's correcting my grammar bit by bit. I'm sending him every chapter. It comes back with I must say, a few corrections. But anyway, thanks, Darren, because he's essential in the process of writing. And Beyond Fury, he wants to make it on a professional basis. Not that Day of Violence wasn't professional, because it was. Great special effects, won a lot of awards in the world for special effects. But I mean professional, meaning shooting for 1 month or whatever needed. It's more expensive in terms of special effects, explosions, cars, and whatever. And so if he does it, as I hope he will, I'm having a very big role, a crazy gangster, and he wanted to name it with something. He wanted to name it with something that sounded Italian, and I say, Darren, why? I mean, it's let's do it Eastern Europe, because I can do the accent, and so I say, let's name it Lenzevich. Gangster, you know.
Giovanni continued to work hard in films and loved to interact with his adoring fans at conventions and so forth, until his sudden passing at the age of 68, which deeply shocked fans around the world.
That's enough rambling from SynthJohn. We will soon enter the retro zone, but before that, oh fuck, I'm starting to feel rather peckish, like Hannibal. Time to get down and funky with the cannibal.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Retro Ramble, where I put the ramble to the retro. Thank you for joining me in the retro zone, instead of, oh yeah, we're in the danger zone, we're in the retro zone, So yeah, thank you for joining me in the retro zone. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about one of Italy's finest actors, in my opinion, Giovanni Lombardo Radice. So yeah, but before we talk about Mr Radice, I think I should talk about how I first got interested in Italian horror. So I think the first Italian horror I saw was Mask of Satan, by Mario Bava. Yeah, I think I haven't seen that for a long time. I think that's the one with Barbara Steele. I think Barbara Steele's in that one. I haven't seen it for such a long time. 60s film. Mario Bava, Mario Bava, the pioneer of Italian horror. So that was the first film I saw. I can't remember how old I was. Couldn't have been very old, 11, 12. But I would say my, not obsession, but my really heightened interest in Italian horror, or giallo, was deep red, also known as Profondo Rosso. Profondo Rosso, yes. So yeah, my mum recommended deep red. And she was like, because everything's alright with my mum. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't know how I was fucking born, you know. My parents after a shag. Oh, what was that like, love? It's alright. And I think I watched Deep Red with a double bill with Meet the Feebles. Because I had Meet the Feebles for my 16th birthday. And I watched Deep Red as well. And I asked my mum about Deep Red. She said, well, I said, what's Deep Red like? What's that like? Because at that point I didn't really watch much Hitchcock, to be honest. So, and she was like, "Oh, it's fucking brilliant. Deep Red's fucking brilliant. Are you fucking drunk? You because normally everything's alright, but Deep Red. Because when I go to Italy, in November, I'm gonna go to the Fondo Rosso store. I'm going to say to Luigi Cozzi, you know, my mum thinks everything's alright, but Deep Red's fucking brilliant. Oh, I see. Oh, hello there, my boy. Oh, yeah, so your mother say everything's alright, but Deep Red, Profondo Rosso is fucking brilliant. Profondo Rosso is a fucking brilliant. So, yeah, so Deep Red started my interest in Italian horror. So anything Argento, you know, I had to fucking see. So, you know, Tenebrae, opera. Not a big fan of Inferno, I gotta be honest. But I love Tenebrae. I love Tenebrae. Tenebrae's brilliant. You know, Tenebrae's probably... It's in my top 5 Argento films. Definitely. Bird with a Crystal Plumage. Cat o' Nine Tails is okay. It's not... I don't know, it doesn't really... I don't know, it's something about Cat o' Nine Tails that doesn't really... It doesn't resonate with me like Bird with a Crystal Plumage or Four Flies and Grey Velvet. It's not a bad film. It's very... I just think it's very slow-paced, Cat o' Nine Tails. And I don't think the story is good as the Bird with the Crystal Plumage's story, or Four Flies and Grey Velvet. I don't know. It just doesn't resonate with me. But yet my Italian horror interest started with Argento. Couldn't really afford a lot of DVDs at that time because I was spending all my money on music at that time. But I would say the last 7 years I've really explored, you know, the depths of Italian horror. So of course Fulci, you know, Lamberto Bava. Who else? Lamberto Bava, Mario Bava, Luigi Cozzi, Contamination. Oh, I directed Contamination. Oh, have you seen Contamination? My name is Luigi Cozzi. I directed Contamination with exploding chests, exploding eggs, exploding chests, exploding chests. I also directed Star Crash. It's like Star Wars, only on a low budget. Yeah, great. But so I think the first film I saw Giovanni Lombardo Radice in was probably, I think it was City of the Living Dead. Now, I did try to watch City of the Living Dead as I think I was 11 or 12, and I just couldn't get into it. Because at that time I was a bit, I don't know, as a kid, your tastes are very conservative. It's like, I remember reading an article, I can't remember if it was in a book or on the internet, but your tastes in film and music always seem to start at 16, like your musical tastes change. And I would probably agree with that, because at 16, music-wise, I was listening to Can and Neu, all the German stuff, so I would probably agree with that. And of course, at 16, that's when I first saw Deep Red, so yeah, I would probably agree with that assessment. At 16, you began to broaden your musical and cinematic horizons. So yeah, so I think I couldn't really get into City of the Living Dead at that time at 11 years old, because I had just seen Dawn of the Dead, which, oh man, you know, such an amazing film, and at that time, if the zombies weren't Romero-like, you know, I don't think, I just didn't have the patience. But no, I love City of the Living Dead. I love that film. But I think the first performance of Giovanni, which really captivated me, was probably Cannibal Apocalypse. Yeah, because I will get into Cannibal Apocalypse, but Cannibal Apocalypse wasn't your stereotypical Italian cannibal film. So this idea of cannibalism as a virus, you know, if the cannibal bites you, you carry the virus with you. It was a very interesting, you know, unique take on the genre, you know, and at that point in time, I mean, with the exception of Deer Hunter, and this was 2 years before Rambo's First Blood, there was no the trope of the Vietnam vet with PTSD wasn't a common thing in films, and with the idea of cannibalism involved, it just I don't know, it was just a very interesting take on it. You know, this idea of cannibalism coming from war, just something about it. It's just, you know, his performance in that, just amazing. You know, such as an actor, such incredible range. And from films to stage work, and he's an incredibly talented man. Directing his own stage plays, translating, Shakespeare into French and Italian and English. I mean, incredibly talented and intelligent, and such an incredible talent, you know. I mean, you know, very interesting family background. His father was a communist mathematician, and he had problems during the war. Of course, at that time you had fascism and Mussolini. It must have been a terrible time for his father, you know, to be prosecuted during that time. It must have been horrible for him, you know. Yeah, and you know, he had you know, he had brothers. I think he had a sister as well. I might be getting my facts wrong. I think he had two brothers, and his oldest brother, unfortunately, was I think he was a schizophrenic. He left home at a very early age. His other brother Marco would go on to be a writer and I think he was a psychiatrist. I think he was. So incredible, you know, incredible family background, and just amazing, and of course, after watching him in Cannibal Apocalypse, I started to get, you know, interested in his, you know, his background, and you know, looking for information on, you know, looking at interviews on the internet and IMDb. And the funniest thing about his trivia on IMDb was the is it worth telling the story again? I mean, this is probably the most famous or infamous story of Cannibal Ferox, where Giovanni refused to kill the pig. His character, Mike Logan, would have to kill a pig for real, no special effects, and he refused to do it. And Umberto Lenzi, the director of Cannibal Ferox, was like, well, hey, Robert De Niro, do I say? Robert De Niro, kick your ass all the way back to Rome. You know, that cracked me up. That really I don't know, it just cracked me up. You know, so he was such a very humorous, very he had a great sense of humour. Very, you know, I've watched a lot of his interviews. You know, very charming. You know, very sweet man, but I don't think he suffered fools gladly. You know, he was very loyal, very loyal man to his friends and family. Very loyal man. You know, definitely had good morals and principles, but I don't think he suffered fools gladly. And he hated Umberto Lenzi, absolutely hated him. You know, and it says a lot, really, because Giovanni established a lot of great relationships with a lot of the directors he worked with. He had a great relationship with Lucio Fulci. He had a great relationship with Michele Soavi. I probably fucked that up. Took me fucking ages yesterday to fucking master that fucking name. Michele Soavi, Lamberto Bava, Umberto Lenzi, Ruggero Diodato, and Lucio Fulci, you know. Oh, you know, he had a great relationship with Michele Soavi, great relationship with Darren Ward. He left great impacts on people. You know, I think he I think he was one of those. I know it's a cliche to say, but he's, like a larger than life actor, you know. And they're very rare these days, larger than life actors. I find with a lot of modern actors. What I find with a lot of modern actors is they just don't have the same experiences as the older actors. And what I find with social media, they tend to be too accessible. Like you get, I mean, most actors, they've got a Twitter account, they've got an Instagram account, they even got a TikTok. Why they got a fucking TikTok, I don't know, because TikTok's for fucking kids, really, isn't it? But and they put their whole lives on it. I mean, that's not just actors, it's, normal Joe Blogs people as well, but actors and actresses, they're too accessible now. But Giovanni did have a social media, but he was still larger than life, though. He wasn't posting, a picture of his fucking dinner. Hey, look what I got. I'm in a little cafe in Rome, and I got my pepperoni pizza, and I'm going to take a picture of it. It's like, no, as an actor and actress, you've got to have some sort of, mystery to you or aura to you. I mean, if I was an actor, if I was a bloody actor, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't have much social media now, to be honest, but if I was an actor, I wouldn't have any social media, because you want to retain that fucking, mystery, but yeah, such a, funny man in interviews, and just, his bloody rants, his rants about Cannibal Ferox. Yeah, somebody needs to compile, about probably be a few hours, mind, of bloody just Radice just ranting about Lenzi. So brilliant. He's like, look, Umberto, I'm not killing anything, and consider I don't report you to animal protection. I'm not fucking doing killing the pig. Funny as fuck. And he says, if you are in the Amazon, you need to be directed by Ridley Scott or Stanley Kubrick, and don't let the Amazonian Lenzi mix, And if you are to be directed by Lenzi, you need to be in a 5-star hotel in the Côte d'Azur, and there needs to be a don't do it class, and Cannibal Ferox must be shown. The location was terrible, and me and Lorraine was bitching in French about Lenzi, and it was a fucking horrible experience. Amazing. Just amazing. So yeah, I've got a few Blu-rays here of his films. I've only got 3. I don't have. I wish 88 Films need to pick up Cannibal Apocalypse. They need to pick that up, and I think they do a great job with it. 88 Films, because 88 Films seem to be rocking and rolling. Arrow don't seem to be putting any video nasties out. I think the last video nasty Arrow did was Don't Go in the House, which I've got, which came out, I think it came out last year. So yeah, I got a few Blu-rays, and I've also got his book, which I will show off. But I think the first film is his debut film, House on the Edge of the Park. So yeah, this came out. I think this came out March of this year. Or was it February? But yeah, this has taken over 40 years for this to be released uncut, which is fucking mind-boggling, because you see far worse now. Much worse, with the torture porn and bloody God knows what else on the dark side of the web, you know. But yes, this was his debut film with Ruggero Deodato, and yeah, brief synopsis. So David Hess and Giovanni Lombardo Radice, they run a auto shop. They're two car mechanics, and these two, I would say, I mean, proto yuppies, you know. They persuade David Hess and Alex and Ricky to go to this party in this big, you know, posh villa, and they're very nasty bastards. These white collar rich kids, they're bastards, and Alex and Ricky are bastards as well. I mean, Ricky he's would say mentally, mentally vulnerable. You know, he's got the mentality of like a 4-year-old, you know. His character reminds me of Sammo Hung's character in Heart of the Dragon. If you've seen that, you know what I mean. But so yes, and they sort of take advantage of Ricky with the poker game and his famous dancing. Says, show him I can. What's the fucking line? I've got the fucking line wrong. Let me show him how I can dance. Why should I tell him? Do your number. They're making an asshole out of you. I can hold my liquor, Alex. So they take advantage of him. And the thing is, Anne Bell. She's enticing David S. in the shower, and it all blows up then, and then David S. He beats the shit out of the one. He beats the shit out of all of them. Beats the shit out of all of them, and then it gets really dark. It gets really dark with the rape and the infamous Cindy scene, which really bothered the censors for a long time, and it is a pretty nasty scene. And in many ways, I'm surprised the BBFC let it through. You know, but you see far worse now. You see a lot worse. I mean, what can I say? I mean, he's got all the hallmarks of Italian exploitation. You know, sex, nudity, rape. But the gore isn't. There's not much gore in it, but it is quite nasty. It is quite brutal. And when I first watched it, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really enjoy it at all. After watching it the second time, when I got this on Blu-ray, I thought it was a much better film than I perceived it. And I think what makes this film is the chemistry between David Hess and Radice. I think You know, the chemistry they have that really carries the film. Because there are moments, their relationship is very... their relationship is very complicated. It's like the scene where Giovanni does his dance, sort of striptease. You can tell Alex is... You can tell he's jealous. There's a jealous streak. He's not the centre of attention. But at the same... But then when Ricky is playing the poker game and they're taking advantage of him, you know, Alex is the first one then to come to Ricky's defence. You know, says, be careful, Ricky. They're taking you for a ride. Play the card. See, show the cards, mister, where I can see them. You know, it's a very conflicting relationship. Like, I don't know. I mean, you do see bits and pieces of. There's one scene where it could be that Alex has given him emotional abuse to Ricky, and you know, Ricky, you know, not really a villain at all. You know, very, you know, very. It just the way. It's the way Radice plays him. You know, you've got so much sympathy for him in a film where human values it's very distorted. You know, there's definitely a class struggle in this film, which didn't really get explored in Italian exploitation or Italian horror or giallo, because Argento, if I'm doing comparisons between Argento, Deodato and Fulci, Argento explored sexual politics, and he was and Argento, he doesn't get enough credit for being a progressive director, because a lot of his films, although his detractors would say, oh, Argento only kills women off in brutal sadistic ways, but a lot of his films have strong female characters. You know, Deep Red, Daria Nicolodi. Perfect example. Strong female character. She beats David S. at what's it called? Arm wrestling. She beats him, you know. And in Tenebrae, he was one of the first ones, Argento, to use a transgender actress, the one who gets, you know, stabbed in the dream sequences. So Argento was very progressive, and in many ways a feminist. He was a feminist. You look at Suspiria, 99% of the characters are female, and they're pretty strong. And the two male characters in Suspiria, you've got the blind pianist with the dog, who's just useless, and he gets slung on his ass. And then you've got the Bulgarian Bulgarian server with the weird teeth, and he doesn't talk, he's mute. So, you know, Argento don't get enough credit for that. And Fulci, he was very critical of Catholicism. You know, you look at Don't Torture a Duckling, you look at City of the Living Dead, and he was a Catholic himself, but he questioned his beliefs. He questioned them a lot. You know, he attacked Catholicism a lot. But Diodato, in comparison, I would say a misanthropic, cynical, jaded sort of look at humanity. I mean, you look at Cannibal Holocaust. You know, the themes of sensationalism of the media. You know, Diodato had a very jaded view on humanity. And in here, you know, the class system, although it's not explored, it's not really explored like a Gentoo would explore it. It's done in a very, crude manner, but it's there though. And the problem, and there are problems with this film. I think the main problem with the film is who do you root for? You know, you've got Alex, who within the first minute of the film rapes and strangles a woman. You know, you've got Ricky, he's being taken advantage of. And then you've got these snot-nosed rich kids who are incredibly unlikable. It's like, who do you root for? It's like, who do you root for? Do you root for the rapists? Or do you root for the rich kids who've had their, you know, it's always difficult. But David S. is just, I mean, this is I calls this part of his rape trilogy, Last House on the Left, Hitchhike, and this film. And so, and the thing is with David Hess, he's so bloody likeable as the villain. You sort of get that, you know, you sort of get a distorted view. I shouldn't be rooting for him, but I am in a perverse sort of way. You know, my nan loved David S. She went, "Ooh, David S. He's handsome." You know, she loved David S. And my mum's like, "David S. Why do you like David S? He's got curly hair and a big conch." But yeah, this is, like I said, it's hard to know who to root for. It really is, and the ending, and the twist at the end. It just, I don't know. It seems to be just tacked on. The ending, the twist at the ending. I wasn't expecting a twist at the ending, but at the same time, it didn't really hint. There weren't much hints that the twist was coming. It just seemed to be not fully explained, but there are flaws with this film, but it is enjoyable, and it's got some great extras on here. You know, this is the 4K, Ultra HD and Blu-ray. I haven't got 4 4K. I haven't got a 4K telly, unfortunately, but I got the Blu-ray with it, and yeah, I really enjoyed it more the second time. Third, if I ever watch, I think how many times have I watched this film? I think I've watched it 3 times now, and it does get better with each watch, really. It does. And of course, you know, great soundtrack, Riz Ortolani. You know, I think, you know, Riz Ortolani's music has probably been, his music, you know, his music is really beautiful, and it really complements the brutality. It really does. And his music has been used in a lot of films with brutal scenes. There's that scene where the witch in Don't Torture a Duckling gets whipped with the chains, and you've got Riz Ortolani's music underneath it, and it shouldn't work, really, but it's like I said, the beauty complements the brutality. It's amazing how his music does that. But yeah, you know, I recommend it. I mean, I'd probably give it, it's a 7, I would say. I don't think I could put it any higher than a 7. But you know, there's a few flaws with it, but overall, I think the performances of David Hess and Giovanni Lombardo Radice really elevate this film. If they weren't in this film, it wouldn't be as good. I mean, not that the other actors are bad. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I've seen, you know, with Italian exploitation, some of the acting is fucking atrocious, but it's not bad in this film, the acting. But they really do carry this film. They really do. But yeah, so House on the Edge of the Park. Let's see what else we got. I think we got City of the Living Dead, the Arrow. It's the Arrow version. So yeah, like I said previously, I couldn't get into this at 11. It's one of those films where it doesn't make sense, but I don't think it's meant to make sense, because I think with Fulci, with a lot of Fulci films, you've got to go into it with a more, you know, an open-minded. You've got to go into it with a more open-minded mentality. It's probably the wrong word, mentality, but you know what I mean. You can't go into it. Oh, fucking hell, this don't make fucking sense. This is fucking shit. Blah, 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 blah. You know, Fulci. I mean, Fulci. You know, I think Fulci suffered with a form of depression. I think with the tragedies that he had in his life, and I think particularly the Gates of Hell trilogy, City of the Living Dead and Beyond and House by the Cemetery, I think those films are Fulci's dark and deepest fantasies put on screen. You know, I think they're dreams that he probably, nightmares or dreams that he probably had, and just put it to film. I mean, I've had bloody nightmares like that. I've had nightmares where I've been in shackles, I've been whipped by demons. Honestly, you know, and that's how we got to look at it. You know, these type of films. You know, you know, very you know, with Fulci's Gates of Hell, they're very, they're more, they rely more on the atmosphere and gore than actual story, compared to his older films like The Psychic and even Zombie Flesh Eaters. I mean, Zombie Flesh Eaters is like, Zombie Flesh Eaters is probably his most, it probably is his most conventional horror film, I think, because it does have a story, I think a decent story all the way through the film. I mean, the only absurd sequence in that is the zombie fighting the shark, which was probably a forerunner of things to come. But yeah, City of the Living Dead, it sees there's a medium being performed, and this psychic, played by Catherine McCorn, sees this priest hang himself in this creepy graveyard in this town of Dunwich, which opens a gate to hell. And she, along with I think it's Christopher George, go there to try and close it, and that is the, you know, the actual plot. But I mean, this film does rely on. It's just, I think I would say it's a montage of nightmarish dream sequences. That's how I would describe City Living Dead. You know, there's the maggot scene where the maggots coming through the window. I thought she had a good laugh about that scene. He was laughing his fucking bollocks off when the maggots are coming in. And I think Christopher George, for revenge, he put maggots in bloody Fulci's pipe. So when he smoked, he said, "What the fuck? Who is that to put my fucking maggots in my fucking pipe? Was it that fucking whore again? Was it that fucking Daniela Dora? Did she put fucking maggots in my fucking pipe? You fucking whore! Get my fucking scene right. This is how you make me feel. I have got to go on the ground and eat gravel because you make me feel like shit." Yeah, Fulci, he was known for his outbursts. It was Radice called Fulci's rants biblical. The biblical wrath of Fulci. But yeah, it took me a while. It took me a while to appreciate this film. It did take a while. And like I said, there's some really gruesome scenes in this. The one scene where the woman sticks out her guts. Oh my god, that just absolutely amazing. I mean, Fulci. They didn't call him the Godfather of gore for nothing. I mean, the way Fulci films gore, it's like it's like an art. It's like Leonardo da Vinci with the Mona Lisa. It's just that he made gore so arty. Although the gore is gruesome, there's something about Fulci's gore. It's just arty. I don't know. I can't describe it. It's just amazing effects. And the atmosphere. The atmosphere. I don't know. The atmosphere reminds me of Silent Hill, the PS1 game. something about the fog and Giovanni, who plays Bob in this, the way he's just walking around in the fog, you know, with that vacant stare, like he's in purgatory or something. It's just amazing, absolutely amazing, you know. And the drill scene with Radice, the drill scene, absolutely amazing effects, amazing practical effects. And Fulci wanted Radice to have a hunchback, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to be a Frankenstein Junior." So I said, and he said to Fulci, he said, "Look, Lucio, I know you want me to have this hunchback, but can we not have the hunchback, and I can hunch my back a little?" And he said, "Show me." So he hunched his back because in ballet, when he did ballet, when he was a young child, he injured his back badly, so he had to stop ballet, and he arched his back, and Fulci said, "This is why I like theatre actors. This is why I like theatre actors. They know what they are doing." So Fulci, although he was a funny bugger at times, I think he had a lot of respect. If you came from the arts, stage and theatre, and you were a really good distinguished actor or actress, he respected you, because he had a lot of respect for Giovanni, and he had a lot of respect for Ian McCulloch and Richard Johnson, who was in Zombie Flesh Eaters. He had a lot of respect for them. You know, it was like actresses who had no experience. He seemed to tease them. You know, he did have a. Although Fulci, you know, there was a lot of tragedy in his life with his wife and his daughter. He did have a sense of humour. I mean, you only got to look at Cat in the Brain, where he pokes fun at himself. But yeah, he had a lot of respect for Radice. He had a lot of respect for him, and Radice's favourite memory of Fulci, where they were at a party. I don't know if it was to do with the release of the film, or I think it was to do with the release of. I think the film had just been released in cinema, and Fulci was in the toilet. And there was a poster of City, I think it was City of the Living Dead, and he ran and he said, everyone, I'm in the loo, you know. And it's a shame Fulci never got to see, you know, his work being, you know, reassessed, you know, because I think this film was one of the first films, because this was banned. This wasn't on the Nasties list, but it was banned, and it didn't get released till 2000. But I think there were cut versions on VHS of the drill scene, and I think the gut scene, but it didn't get released uncut till 2001. And I was and a lot of his films around that time period got uncut releases, and it's a shame you never got to see, you know, these films get a new sense of life. You know, it's a shame because he, you know, he was, you know, it ate him up that he wasn't being regarded as a great director in Italy. I mean, according to Radice, Fulci, Italy critics thought Fulci was shit, and yet in France they loved him. He said, "Oh, in France I'm considered genius. In Italy they think I'm dog shit." And it's a shame he never got to see, you know, Zombie Flesh Eaters and Sea Living Dead, and I mean the only film that hasn't been released uncut is New York Ripper, and I think to myself, well, the scene in House on the Edge of the Park is very similar to the scene in New York Ripper. You know the scene I'm talking about in New York Ripper, where the woman is tied up to the bed naked, and the serial killer in it, he basically cuts her tits, you know, he cuts her body, he cuts her eyes. It's a similar sort of scene, and yet New York Ripper's not. I mean, New York Ripper's not the greatest film, I gotta be honest, but if that's... I mean, if Cannibal Holocaust is nearly fully uncut, then New York Ripper should be released uncut. I mean, House on the Edge of the Park's uncut, why not New York Ripper? I don't know. BBFC, the bizarre BBFC, you know, it's fucking bizarre they are. But yeah, this is a you know, good film. It's probably not my favourite in the Gates of Hell trilogy, but it is a good film, and I think Radice's pretty Radice's really good in it as Bob. He's sort of like a, you know, like a misfit, you know, the idiot of the village, you know, very not as not too dissimilar to Ricky in House on the Edge of the Park, but I think he's more, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the word. Like I don't know, like a ghost. And that's another thing, the zombies in this, they're not your stereotypical come out of the grave and just give you a hickey, you know, they teleport. You know, it's like they're more like spectres, they're more like phantoms, you know, they teleport. You know, they're not your stereotypical zombies in this. But yeah, it's a great film. So yeah, we talked about On the Edge of the Park. Oh, yeah, I got a big cramp in my leg. Oh, 53 minutes. Good fucking lord. Jesus, way things are going. This is going to be a 2-hour video. Way things are going. So yeah, we talked about On the Edge of the Park, City of the Living Dead. Talked briefly about Cannibal Apocalypse. I wish they put that. I wish they put that out on Blu-ray. Hopefully 88 Films will pick it up one day. Fingers crossed. Hopefully they will. So yeah, we talked. Yeah, Cannibal Ferox. We all know how Giovanni feels about that. So yeah, another. As I've talked about, you know, the incredible diversity of range that Giovanni had. Stage fright is. I mean, you could argue. You could argue it's his best role. I mean, you could argue that because it shows his more fun-loving comedic side to his range. You know, and this is a great slasher film. You know, I bought this last year. I've always wanted to see this film, and it's such a great little film. Great little film. So yeah, let's have a look. Is there a poster in here? I don't think it is. I thought there was no. I must be thinking of something else. I'm sure there was a poster in there. Was there a poster? Oh, I know what I'm thinking. I think there's a poster in this one. Yeah, there's a poster in this one. I think it's the original artwork. No, beg your pardon, that's the booklet. Beg your pardon. I think this is the poster. I don't think this is the original poster. That's the original poster. of House on the Edge of the Park. That's the original poster. Oh, I love the smell of that. Oh, sniffing that's better than sniffing. Oh, smell that again. God, that's better than sniffing cocaine. God, lovely. So yeah, I was posting that one. So what I like about what I like about Stage Fright is there's the artwork. What I like about Stage Fright is that although it has more slash elements than actual giallo elements, because the mid 80s saw the Italian horror exploitations sort of take their cues from the American slasher, because the 70s giallo, the Italian murder mystery films, they were an influence on 80s slasher. You know, Bay of Blood by Mario Bava, big influence on Friday the 13th. In many ways, I mean, you could argue. I mean, Psycho. I mean, you could put Psycho in there, but I think Bay of Blood is the first slasher film. Arguably, I mean, you could put Black Christmas there, but Bay of Blood 2 years before, I think 3 years before Black Christmas, Halloween, 1978. You know, but by the early 80s, mid 80s, the Italians were taking the cue from the Americans again, because with the Italian film industry, they were very exploitative. You know, if the Americans were doing shark films and they were successful, the Italians would do their rip-offs of them. So, and you had stuff like, you know, Contamination, which was originally going to be called Alien 2. And Contamination was 6 years before Aliens. There's a lot of elements in Contamination that you see in Aliens, you know. So yeah, so what I like about this film is that it takes its cues from American slasher, but it definitely does still retain that Italian artiness about it. You know, that Italian atmosphere. It does, you know, I mean, it's described on here, schooled by Dio Gento and Terry Gilliam. Yeah, I would, you know, he definitely, Michele, you know, Suavi, he does have the elements of a Gento and Terry Gilliam, and there's no mystery with this, who the serial killer is. Like with a lot of the American slashers, you know, you're guessing who the killer is. You know, you're always guessing, you know, who's doing the killing. But with this, it's, you know, straight away. So Irving Wallace, the former actor that has a breakdown and murdered several people, and he's maintained, you know, detained in the mental hospital here, and he escapes. And he dons this outfit, and he just goes on a killing spree. But he uses a variety of different weapons. He'll use a chainsaw, he'll use a drill, you know, which is really interesting to me. Because I find with a lot of serial killers, they tend to use the same weapon, but he uses a variety of weapons, and it's probably. I would draw parallels with this and Argento's opera, but I enjoy this more. There's something about this. It's probably the most there's definitely a claustrophobic feel to this film. It's definitely I think it's the idea of these stage actors, trapped in this big abandoned, theatre, being chased by a serial killer. There's something about that. There's definitely a very claustrophobic. I like the claustrophobic feel, and it's probably the most creepiest, suspenseful Italian films, certainly of the mid-80s, definitely, because a lot of the mid-80s, because at that time the Giallo had really peaked. It really peaked with Tenebrae and Blade in the Dark, and a lot of the Italian stuff was getting quite too campy. Like, I like Demons, but it's not scary. It's very, very, very campy. This is not. I wouldn't say this was campy at all. I mean, apart from Brett, played by Radice, it's a very creepy, suspenseful film. Great gore effects in it as well. And it's played by George Eastman. I mean, George Eastman was a tall motherfucker. Who's in Absurd, if you've watched Italian horror, Absurd. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, George Eastman in Absurd is scarier than Michael Myers. If you've never seen Absurd, you need to watch Absurd. It's like the first two Halloween films infused into one, but with the Italian flavour. Brilliant film. And he's underneath this owl mat. It's just, there's something about that costume, that owl costume. And again with the Italians, animals. There's always a lot of references to animals, like with the Gento, with his bird with the crystal plumage, and Cat o' Nine Tails, and Scorpion with the two tails. A lot of references to animals, and of course Radice. He's people do, and of course there's method acting, which is a practice that a lot of actors do. But Radice, he did a form of method acting called zoomorphia, which was a study of animals, and he would put different characteristics of animals in his performances. So his performance in Cannibal Ferox, I think he described as a cruel tiger, and of course with that role there wasn't much depth to that role, so he put a lot of he described in his book, he put a lot of his anxiety and neuroticness into that role. And of course at that particular time he had a cocaine addiction. And that's another thing about Radice. He's very honest about his demons, and he talks about his struggles with anorexia. He talks about his, he's very honest. He talks about his bisexuality. He was bisexual. He had affairs with women and men, and very, very, very honest man. And and he talked about having a therapist. So I'll go on to the book now. So yeah, great film. Excuse me. So yeah, this is the book. I think fucking camera. Oh dear me. Never professional, am I? So yeah. Oh, excuse me. So this is the book. I think I got this book about Christmas 2020. Christmas 2021? Or was it Christmas 2020? I can't remember. But I think it was around those Christmases. It wasn't last year's Christmas. It was either 2020 or 2021. And this is a great book. It's a great book. You know, talks about, you know, like I say, talks about his family. You know, talks about his extended family that scolded him for using the Morgan name in his, you know, in his shitty movies. You know, it's great. You know, some great pictures. I'll show you some pictures. See, let's have a look. Is there any pictures I haven't shown? Let's have a look. Just trying to think. Because I have used a lot of pictures in the video already, haven't I? So that's his maternal grandfather. So they're all linked to the Morgan name. Let's have a look. So any other pictures? I think I haven't showed a picture of his brother, have I? His brother. That was his wife. His wife. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. He worked on. Forgot to mention, he worked on Treasure Island in outer space. Yeah, I forgot to mention that, didn't I? Trying to think. Which was his brother? Because unfortunately, he lost his brother. He lost his brother. Unfortunately, bloody camera. It's a picture of his brother and his brother's his foster son and his son and his foster son. So yeah, very sad. Very lost his brother. Very sad. Yeah, it's got the Ian's A to Z is pretty interesting that he has at the back of the book. That's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. He got alphabet game. He's got let's have a look. So J as Jeremy. So along with Daniel Day-Lewis, Jeremy Irons is, in my opinion, the best living actor. And when he wasn't even nominated for his amazing performance in Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, I could have gone to Hollywood and strangled each Academy Award voting member with my bare hands. Working with him would be one of the best gifts life could present me with. So yeah, so yeah, he talks about his zoomorphia. So Z as zoo. I spent a long time in them watching animals for my acting training, but I hate them, and I would like to see a day when they will all be closed by law, or the day when Planet of the Apes will come true, and we humans will be caged instead of animals. We surely deserve the fate more so than they do. Yeah, and so let's just read one more out. So A as in anorexia. Once you get it, you'll never get rid of it. It might be silent for years. You can even add some fat to the frame and become slightly overweight. But at the first major inconvenience, at the next dangerous corner, at the first spell of depression, your lifelong friend will be by your side, and over the years will not manifest itself with a conscious refusal of food. You would like to eat, but you can't. You prepare yourself a nice salad, but only 2 mouths in you stop because your stomach just closes. For the millionth time, it's happened to me right now, so I know. Smile. Yeah, I mean, my nan, my dad's mother had anorexia, and my dad, you know, he had his experiences with my nan, and yeah, I think my dad had to grow up pretty quickly as a kid. Because mental illness, it's not a joke. Mental illness, It's not a joke. But yeah, it's a great book. You know, I always read this at least once or at least twice a year. It's such, you know, it's so, you know, it's such a fascinating book. You know, it really is, and you know, and I need to see more of his later films, to be honest. Like I'd like to see Beyond Theory. I'd like to see that as him as the East European gangster. Was it Ledzivich? I wonder who I was named after. Bloody hell! The long-running feud between Lenzi and Radice, they should have had a match at WrestleMania. They should have done. Giovanni Lombardo Radice versus Umberto Lenzi in a Gates of Hell match with Undertaker as a referee. Should have done. Really should have done. Yeah, that would have been awesome. That would have, and that would have been a reason. And that would have been a reason to watch a modern WrestleMania. Let's be honest. But I think I waffled on enough, to be honest. I didn't expect to talk so long, but yeah. Sadly, we lost Giovanni this year. April of this year. That was a shock. That was a real shock. That was because a couple of months previously he was at the Romford Horror Festival. You know, if I had known about that, I probably would have gone to have seen Radice. Not necessarily get anything signed, because I'm not that type of person. Oh, I want this side, I want that side, I want. Oh, look at me, hello Giovanni, it's me, hello, I'm your biggest fan. I'm not like that. I'm quite respectful of people's privacy. I would have been happy just to hear him talk. You know, for him to say, you know, beware. Was it? It is. You know, it's like you know, Shakespeare, you know, wrote great villains, Iago, and beware the blur. Was it beware of the hand that I don't know the fucking word. I don't know the fucking words. Beware the hand that feeds you. It's like jealousy in the darkness. And another thing is the shut up can't. Oh man, I wish I had gone, man. Such a fucking shame, man. Such a shock. I mean, when I heard that news, I must have. It was like I was hit over the head with a sledgehammer. I mean, I gasped. I went like that. I really gasped, and I was like, "Fucking hell, I need to catch my breath." I was like, such a fucking shock. You know, because he still had a lot to give to films, because he never, you know, people call him the hardest dying man in Italian cinema. I think he was the hardest working man. He never stopped. You know, the Italian cinema, you know, it did decline in the early 90s. He never stopped working though. He never stopped. You know, he was the hardest working actor in Italian history, in my opinion. You know, and he still had a lot to give. He really did. But I mean, I think his legacy. You know, he is, you know, one of the you know, as a. You know, he is an Italian horror icon. You know, if anyone needed a elaborate death scene in a film, Giovanni was your man. He was your man, Italian icon, and he left an incredible legacy. For Lenzi to say, "Oh, Giovanni, what's he ever done? He's a loser." That whose claim to fame is to get a cranium kill to the head and being in cannibal ferox. That's for Lenzi to say that in an interview. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I would say 99% of people would say, well, whose legacy is better? It's going to be Radice over Lenzi. Lenzi, the pioneer of Italian cannibal films. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not. Do you know what I mean? Lenzi. I don't rank. I know some people like Lenzi, but I just don't. I've watched a couple of his films, and it's just he doesn't have the magic to me of Argento, Mario Bava, Sergio Martino. He doesn't. To me, I'm for Radice to say that about Radice is just not fair. It's not fair, and it's not right, in my opinion. There's more to Radice than a cranium kill to the head in cannibal ferox. Do you know what I mean? It's like that Italian cannibal documentary, and you've got Diodato and Lenzi arguing who created the genre. I created the genre. I created the Italian cannibal. No, I created the Italian cannibal. It's like fucking Spartacus in. It's like I'm Spartacus in Spartacus. I created the Italian cannibal film. No. I created the Italian cannibal film. No. I created the Italian cannibal film. It's like, that's nothing to be proud of, sir. Nothing to be proud of at all. God, blimey, going on a long time, yeah, Jesus, Mary and Joseph. So yeah, thank you for watching, and rest in peace, Giovanni Lombardo Radice. God bless you. Oh yeah. So yeah, thank you for watching. I don't know what the next episode is going to be in Retro Ramble. I'm not sure yet. It might be a television program. It might be an album. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, thank you for watching. Well, thank you if you got this far. And I will see you in the next video. We must ban those video nasties.